And welcome, everybody. This is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health and Power Up for Profits podcast, because today I've got two amazing people who are not only knocking it out of the park with plant-based eating and veganism, they have a business strategy that actually has been one that I think people need to model it with all that's going on with the pandemic. And they have figured out some things that a lot of people are saying, how do I do this? So with that, I want to welcome Tosh and Ed to the show, and welcome. And why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your business?
Well, thanks for having us on your podcast. We really appreciate it. And so our business is 100% vegan, sourdough bakery. But we also have extra offerings. So we do really good espresso coffee, and we're quite well known now for our sourdough cinnamon buns, cookies, pizza dough, and ever-changing menu.
And some deli items. During the pandemic, we shifted to doing more flours, some marinated olives, pots of hummus, things like that are kind of people can take home and use throughout the week.
That's wonderful. And I want to get into more about the kinds of foods that you supply, but let's start with, you're both vegan. When did you go vegan, and who was first?
I went vegan first back in 2014. I was working as a cook at a ski school in Whistler, where we're based in Canada. And I didn't like the quality of the meats that I had to cook. I'd never cooked meat before this. I was vegetarian, but I was reading all the labels. I felt really awful about feeding people such terrible quality food. And I started to learn a lot more about health and nutrition, and began eating vegan long before I was calling myself vegan. And then in 2014, there were a lot of movies floating around, Cowspiracy, things like that. And you start to become aware of the environmentalism, the animal ethics, and it's just been a journey from there.
And so, Ed, when did you become vegan?
Well, we've always, like Tash said, she was vegetarian. I sort of was a fine dining chef, so ate everything, but had a really good relationship with high quality organic food, and ate a vegetarian diet at home, almost vegan, to be honest. And as Tash started to sort of feed me information on our time off, watching sort of these sort of documentaries, it really opened my eyes. So that, the restaurant that I was working at in Whistler, Outer Bistro, was a sort of farm to table, ever-changing menu, very seasonal. So I started implementing vegan dishes. We're doing vegetarian and altering the dishes. So me and the head chef developed vegan dishes that nothing was taken away, that it was a complete dish. And the restaurant was quite well known for some of the good vegan options in town. And then staff dinners, we always had a vegan option. And from there, it just grew and grew, really. It was for the health. I was born with a heart murmur. So it was always... it was quite an easy transition once I realized the health benefits. It started as quite a selfish thing, and then the environmental sort of side and the animal cruelty. So it all sort of linked in quite quickly. It was kind of for myself, then the more of the research that we both did, we were like, this is so much of a bigger thing.
And the great thing is, in his mid-20s, Ed's aorta was shrinking and he had to have a stent fitted. Mm-hmm. And that was quite scary. At that time, I remember going to the hospital after his surgery. Everyone in there was at least double, if not triple his age. And they all looked at him like, you're a bit young to be in here. And then he was sent home with 12 pills a day. And I thought he was going to be on that medication for the rest of his life. And within about 3 months of going plant-based, he went for a checkup. He has to go for regular checkups for his heart. And they said to him, you don't need to be on this medication anymore. And he actually came off it. He doesn't take any meds now. And we went to the hospital about a month ago. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yep, they gave him a fitness test. He had a whole day of tests in all of the different scans and everything, and they said that he has a really strong heart. So he's living proof of the
That's incredible. Well, that's the thing that I hear from a lot of people, that, and not only that I have on my podcast show, but just people I know who are plant-based, that they may have been on a lot of medication, and then by being plant-based, they go off the medication. Now, Ed, you look like you're in really great shape. Are you real physical? Do you exercise? And if so, what do you do?
Yes, I mean, obviously being a baker, there's a lot of lifting these days. So it is quite a physical job, and sort of moving bread in and out of the oven and heavy bags of flour and dough. So I definitely am in a physical job, but we both really living in the mountains here in BC. We really enjoy hiking, getting out for like long walks and things like that. I like swimming. Luckily, sometimes we can swim in the lakes. Biking, Tash, not so much. I'm still trying to sort of like build her confidence with the mountain biking, but we definitely live a sort of active life. So it's good. I'm really happy with the way that it's gone. Like Tash said, there's no medical research when you're on that much medication, 12 pills a day. There's no test to see how that affects you after 50 years. So
right.
It was a gradual sort of, it wasn't just, okay, come off all your medication. It was definitely, okay, let's drop it down by a quarter, see how you go, monitor it. And the doctors, they never want to talk about what it is. Or, oh, I'm on a vegan diet and I'm proud and I want to tell them all. They're like, okay, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's shocking, actually. And fortunately, my doctor is so pro plant-based eating, and she's not herself plant-based 100%, but she actually is the one who really encouraged me, because I had gained a whole bunch of weight when my mom was sick and I was caretaking her. My normal staple of food was candy bars. I mean, I have to admit it. I'm a sugar addict, and I was just packing on the weight. I didn't feel like doing anything. I was, of course, losing your mom, you get kind of depressed. And so it was just like this vicious cycle. And when I finally decided to go plant-based, almost immediately there was a change. Within 7 days, I dropped something like 6 or 7 pounds. My energy started going up. And that was, at my heaviest, I was about 60 pounds heavier than I am right now. But when I started plant-based, I was about 38 pounds heavier than I am right now. But with baking, it's interesting, because you branded yourself with sourdough bread. Is sourdough bread normally not vegan?
So there's a lot of hidden ingredients in bread in general. So bread that people would buy from the grocery store, from the supermarket, has between 25 and 35 ingredients. Lots of numbers, lots of preservatives, sugars,
milk powders.
So yeah, a lot of the time, an egg, if it was like a brioche or some sort of sweet loaf, in our bread, you can make bread with flour, water, salt. That's all we put in the bread, because it's naturally leavened. It uses the bacteria, it uses a starter, a sourdough starter, like you would have like kombucha or things like that, like a ferment. And it's naturally fermented, and that's all you need. It's the 3 ingredients. So it baffles me to think, what are these other sort of, 25 to 30 ingredients that they're putting in? And sourdough's the way that we ate bread up until about 50 or 60 years ago. It was just in that sort of, the baby boom almost, where the Mighty White and these are Wonder Bread and all these sort of companies, they sped everything up for mass production. They sifted out all the bran and all the good, healthy parts of flour. Because unfortunately, that's what makes it go bad quicker. So by sifting out all the bran and the healthy part of the grain, that you're left with this white,
more shelf-stable,
stable bread, exactly, that's lighter and that, keeps soft in your cupboard for 2 or 3 weeks.
But if you go to an artisan bakery, like down in the States, you have some phenomenal bakeries like Lodge Bread, Tartine. We actually spent a few years doing research, visiting world-class sourdough bakeries. And we would go into, for example, Tartine in San Francisco, and there's a line out the street. You wait 45 minutes to get in the building. We were so lucky to get a loaf of bread, because all of their breads are sold out usually. And then we said, are any of the pastries vegan? There was one vegan option in a cabinet. It seemed, I don't know how many there were, but it looked like there were about 100 things. One vegan option. And we thought, this is incredible, like such an amazing bakery, and barely anything's vegan. And we were like, what we need is a world-class sourdough bakery where everything is plant-based, where the kitchen doesn't have any cross-contamination. And we can show people that you can have the best bread in the world as well as plant-based pastries.
Interesting. Now, where are you two originally from?
We're both from the UK, from England, and we're actually both from the South. So we have a similar accent, but we're not exactly.
You do. And how did you end up in Canada?
Snowboarding.
Yeah.
Okay. So you snowboarded across the ocean.
Yeah, across the pond. We wanted to snowboard for the winter. So we
Okay.
came over with a 1-year visa, and we said, we're going to stay in Whistler for 6 months, and then we're going to go to Montreal and do some of the French-speaking Canada. And within 6 months, we decided we love Whistler and we want to stay forever. And, 7 years later, we've got a bakery here.
That's amazing. Now, where exactly is that located? So, and before you share that, this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health and Power Up for Profits podcast. And I'm talking with Tash and Ed, and they have a bakery, a vegan bakery in a small resort area in Canada. It's doing great. The lines are around the block. They're just crushing it. And I would encourage people, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification and the like button if you're on YouTube, and if you're on any of the audio platforms, go ahead and leave a review and subscribe to this channel. So where exactly is your bakery?
So you're based down in Oregon.
Yes, I am.
So you go straight up past Seattle into BC, keep going up another 2 hours north of Vancouver. We're in the mountains. So it's Whistler Mountain. It's a world premier ski resort. It's also the biggest mountain bike resort in the world. It's full of athletes. We have a lot of Olympians in town, and a lot of them are going plant-based too. And so we're an easy drive from Vancouver.
Wonderful. So I'm sure you're familiar with the work of Rich Roll, who is, I adore him. His work is amazing. And he was one of the influencers of me deciding to go plant-based. Few similarities. One, he's been sober for many years. I've been sober for 36 years. He just, was having health issues and all of that. So when you said mountain biking and world-class athletes that are going plant-based, pretty soon Ed's going to get you on that mountain bike. I know that. Now, let's talk about the whole pandemic and how it impacted your business and what you did to pivot. And you actually came out, from what I understand, much better than most people. So tell me about that.
Well, we didn't actually, obviously we'd been following COVID with having family in the UK. They got, Europe got hit particularly bad, especially in the beginning of the lockdown and things. And so we'd heard that it was, pretty dangerous, and Starbucks, had put warnings out and things like that. And then on the Saturday, I think it was the 14th of March, all of a sudden we heard that the ski mountain, were going to be closing at the end of the day. We didn't know how long for, whether it was going to be a week, 2 weeks for the rest of the season, but customers were coming into our shop and saying that the mountain was going to close. And we were very confused, and they were asking us, are you going to close? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And we didn't really have a plan. The next day, it was my birthday, and we were supposed to be going to Vancouver. But with all this in the air and these rumors flying around, we decided to cancel the trip. It was best for us to stay and support our staff. So we decided to stay and to sell the product that we'd made, because it's sourdough. It was all in the fridge on the Saturday. We pride ourselves on zero waste. 100% zero waste, so we sell out every day. We don't ever sell something that's been baked the day before. So we were like, let's just sell out today and then analyze it throughout the day and towards the end of the day. By the end of the day, most people had left. The tourists have left Whistler, and we were like, okay, we need to pivot and we need to decide what we're going to do. So the following morning, we had a meeting with my baker's assistant, who's quite savvy on computers. And we decided to move the shop to an online shop, so people were able to pre-order their bread and some of the sweet treats, and come in and collect it once a week. And then we sorted out a scheduling appointments, so people could come to the front door where there was a pickup table. They would have a 5-minute window. So there was no contact with other customers or with ourselves. We were able to put their pre-order on the table and step back, to a safe distance. And it was received so well, people couldn't really believe that we'd pivoted that quickly.
Within 24 hours.
I'm amazed. I'm amazed, because there's people that are still waiting for it to go back to the way it was, and they're getting in worse and worse financial situations as a result of it. And within 24 hours, you had it figured out. And now, how did your staff respond to all this, and how did it impact what you're doing now in your business? That would have been what, 6-8 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was it came at a really strange time because we'd actually experienced record-breaking sales month on month, and by mid-March we were at an all-time high. We just hired new staff, and we were like just looking to keep going, and it was just so much momentum. And then all of a sudden we'd shut the shop. The staff all started panicking about if they would be able to get home. They were starting to shut borders around the world. We had Australian staff, we had staff from Northern Ireland. So half the team actually that week, they all flew back to their homelands, and that's it. They haven't come back since, and they're not likely to come back either.
Right.
And the ones that stayed in town, we temporarily laid off because we were told to do that by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. We called them, we're members of them, and we asked them for some help, like how are we supposed to react to this pandemic? And they actually said, you need to lay off all your staff and you need to brace yourselves. And so we did that, and it was kind of scary, but we didn't have time to live in the fear. We are new entrepreneurs. Every month has been a challenge. Every day has been a challenge. Everything we've had to learn and figure out from day one. So this was just the next challenge. Okay, the shop's shutting. How are we going to get bread to the people? Okay, we have a website. How are we going to turn it into a shop?
Right,
and
right.
We just kind of, we didn't really stop and wallow in our pity of, oh dear, isn't this terrible?
Right.
We just saw it as, this is a challenge that has to be overcome.
That's
incredible. And because we weren't allowed to obviously have staff, it was the whole social distancing. We were going into this lockdown. So I don't like to say lucky because we just sort of made it happen, but I'm the baker. Tash was able to run the orders and the front of house. So we just did it with the two of us, you know, and it meant long hours of Tash was doing huge amounts of washing dishes, running the orders. Things
it wasn't
like
glamorous.
Yeah, you know, and it's always amazing when somebody says, oh, you're so lucky. It's like, okay, let's talk about what this really involved. Speaking of your website, how would people get in touch with you to find out more about your business?
Well, thank you for asking, Kathleen. We have a website. It's edsbred.com, edsbred.com, edsbred.com.
Wonderful.
And if anyone's ever in the Whistler area, we are setting up a discount code for all your listeners, Kathleen. So it'll be plant-based eating. And we're going to keep that so it doesn't expire, because at the moment the borders are shut. There's very little movement. We did have some guests from Seattle at the weekend. Not sure how they slipped the net, but we don't judge. And so if anyone's ever in town, because we're not too far from maybe where some of your listeners live, and they want to come to Canada to ski, it's cheaper. Then come on up, come and pre-order some bread, some cinnamon buns, and come and see us. So
I'll definitely have to come up to that area. And it's interesting because more people want to go into Canada than the other way around. It's like people don't want to come to the U.S. right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, hopefully when the election is over, we'll have things move around a little bit. You know, there's more protections in place. But now, I know that in the U.S., a lot of entrepreneurs have actually gone bankrupt because there hasn't been, quite seriously, a lot of support for the independent business owners and the small business owners. Where in Canada, I have a colleague and a friend who's in New Brunswick, where she runs a doggy daycare with 11 staff members, and they've been able to make it through because of the support from your government. How would you say that's impacted your business, as far as just knowing that you do have the support of the government and the programs that have been put in place? Are they as good as what I hear they are?
I think so.
They're very good. It's been a huge help to us, because we do make everything from scratch. So we do have a high labor cost. And what we've been able to do is, from the end of June, when they sort of relaxed sort of not the social distancing, but the people were able to go out to shops and move around a bit freer. We funneled, instead of being open 5 days, we opened 3 days. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we funneled our customers to those 3 days to ensure that we were really busy on those 3 days, instead of having, 5 to 7 average days, because we are most of our customers are sort of mums. They're buying bread for the family. They can then come in, stock up, and buy once for the week.
Nice.
So
we have a wage subsidy program. So if your revenue has dropped a certain percent, you are able to get assistance from the government, and they compare your revenue now to pre-COVID months. And as I said, we were at record high month on month. So that was a real godsend. It was stressful at first because they announced these programs and they don't tell you what the criteria is.
Right.
And then you have to figure out how to apply for them. But everyone's kind of been in the same boat. Everyone's been on all these webinars and Zoom meetings to figure out how you do it. And then the government also gave very easily a 40 grand loan to all businesses. And if you pay it back by the end of 2022, you can keep 10 grand of it as a grant, basically.
That's a nice incentive. That's a nice
just
incentive.
having that in the bank and knowing that that's interest free until the end of 2022.
Right.
That is great relief.
You know, it really is. And as you've grown your business with where you're at right now, besides the bread, you mentioned some other products that you make available. You have the, tell me about the coffee with the, is it almond milk or oat milk? That
we always recommend oat milk because oats are homegrown. They grow oats in Canada, and we have a gluten-free oat milk. It's a Vancouver brand called Earth Zone. And what we found is in an Oxford University study that the oat milk uses about 48 litres of water resources to produce, in comparison to cow's milk that uses over 1,000 litres of water to produce. So it's about 5% of the water resource of cow's milk. So even if animal ethics aren't on your radar or, you know, health, a lot of people are concerned about the environment, the climate crisis. And it's a great way to make a massive difference just by switching to oat milk. They actually taste very similar in a latte. Some people can't even tell the difference.
That's incredible.
We recommend oat, but we like to have variety for people. So we have almond milk, we have coconut milk, we have soy milk. I mean, these options are pretty much standard everywhere now. The difference with us is we don't charge the extra $1 for the plant-based alternative that a lot of other cafes do. And we also plant a tree for every coffee that we sell in partnership.
I love that. I love that because there's a company here in Oregon, Seneca Lumber, that they actually have planted, I think, 40 million trees. And that initiative was started many, many years ago. And I was just so impressed with that because it's not just about what we do for ourselves, but what we do for the environment and the animals. And I know that you two have actually been on podcast shows where you've talked about compassion to animals. How does that play into your choices around what you consume?
Well, obviously we don't consume any animal products, so we are the people that read the labels. If possible, we'll try and source things from vegan companies. There's a grocery store in Vancouver that's called Vegan Supply, and it's great to go in there because you don't have to, you know, question anything. They've already checked everything for you. As far as supplying products for our bakery, we have to ask questions to some of our suppliers. Things like coconut milk, you want to know, have monkeys collected these coconuts? There's things like that. We are looking into new packaging for our bread. So yesterday we had a conversation with the paper bag producer, the mill. Do you use animal-based glue? So there's a whole, you know, once you start scratching the surface.
Incredible.
Yeah, even condoms can have animal-based products in. It's not really applicable to our business, but there's a whole lot of animal-based products that are very common. And
yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that, but but in case it's important to people, read the label. Spend the time reading the label, and nobody will get pregnant. There you go. But the fact is, if somebody's thinking of starting a business right now, what would be, from your own experience, because I have to say I'm very impressed with how quickly you made changes, and you didn't sit there and process it to death and then say, oh no, what if? You just got in and you rolled up your sleeves. And I've had my business 26 years, and in that time I've seen a lot of people come and go. What would you say for somebody who is thinking of starting a business? What's your sage advice to them?
Well, the way that BReD started the company was very small. It was grassroots. It was through Facebook. So almost like a farmer's market. So I like I said, I was a fine dining chef. I approached the owners of the restaurant and said, can we rent your kitchen, because it didn't open for lunch. So I rented the kitchen space at a very small cost, because it was a startup, and they were like, yeah, we want to help you out. You're an employee. So rented the kitchen for a Wednesday and a Thursday morning. Wednesday I would make all the bread. Thursday I would bake it. And it started just from making a few for friends. And we both do yoga daily. So we started selling to the yoga studio and to our teacher. And then people would come in and smell this like warm bread. And then we were very lucky that, you know, word of mouth is quite strong in this town. So it grew and grew from there. So I would recommend that people just test it out on don't put in too much money to start with, basically. We did this market research that we started at 30 loaves, and then it quickly grew to 50 loaves. And then after a year, we were averaging 150 loaves 1 day a week. I still was working full time for the kitchen. And then we really knew that this product was going to work. We didn't even mention that it was going to be vegan. We didn't even know that we were going to open a shop. And then we really believed that it would work. We sold our house in the UK to help fund open the bakery. And I think that really shows lenders. They're like, these guys, they believe in it so much. They're willing to put this much of their personal, you know, savings into it. We were able to secure some good loans to you know, get all the equipment and set up the bakery.
So just keep it really, really simple. Like Ed started just by making bread once a week. Keep it simple and then build on it. Don't go in there thinking, I'm going to have this amazing restaurant, breakfast, lunch, dinner, takeout, and all that. It's way too big a project to start from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Now, where do you see, and again, this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health and Power Up for Profits. And I'm talking with Tosh and Ed, who have, is it Ed's BReD, the name of your company?
So it's just BReD, actually, BReD. Ed's BReD is the Instagram handle. So if your listeners want to look at some beautiful pictures of baked goods, like a lot of people do these days, they can follow us on Instagram. So it's Ed's EDS _ bread, BRED.
Okay.
So Ed's BReD, and that's how the name of the shop came about.
Wonderful.
So we keep it short and snappy. So yeah, bread.
Because it was Ed, he sold bread. And we thought long and hard about the name.
You do keep it simple.
Yeah, well, we thought about a whole load of other names, but it just came back to bread. I said, let's just spell it like Ed. So it's BRED, bread.
That's
like
wonderful.
Ed.
So where do you see things going in the future for yourself and the plant-based and vegan community? What's your vision a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road?
So I think that when we first came up with the concept of opening a plant-based bakery, it was pretty out there. And nowadays, to have a plant-based bakery or any plant-based business or product is really not that interesting for the mass market. I think in the UK last year, 1 in 4 new food products were vegan or made a vegan claim. So this is great news for vegans, not such great news for vegan business owners, because now you have to do more than just be vegan. And that's where we're at. So we're living an ethical lifestyle. So of course that entails looking after animals, also looking after your health, but also looking to look after people's health, and looking at, you know, things like becoming a B Corp, which is a certification that many businesses have, like in the States, the snowboard company Burton have this. And it means that you look at all your suppliers and make sure that they're like fair trade practices, that you don't exploit people, that all your ingredients are sourced ethically and sustainable. And also looking into getting a vegan certification. So at the moment, there is no law in the States, Canada, or anywhere else that dictates that anything that makes a vegan claim has to be vegan.
Right.
We've all been to the local restaurant, eaten a vegan option, but is it really vegan if there's animal products in the kitchen? Is that food being put in the fryer with the animal-based oil? You know, you don't know. And now we've got all these pandemics on our hands. There is an issue of cross-contamination. What we've found is our vegan customers, they don't believe that we're vegan, because we don't have it in massive letters a big V for vegan. Most of our customers, they're actually not vegan, which is awesome. They're making vegan choices. They're not vegan, but they're on a journey. Even if they don't know it, they're on a journey. They're coming into our shop, right? So we want to get a vegan certification so we can have that as a recognized stamp that this kitchen doesn't have any animal products. There is zero chance of cross-contamination, and all of our ingredients are vegan. Things like chocolate chips and things like that we might source from somewhere else. And also looking at ways to support other animal charities and organizations, doing a little bit more for the animals. Now that we're becoming a successful business, how can we help and have a bigger impact in that space? And, you know, eventually, hopefully, opening up another shop, bigger impact.
Where do you plan to open up your next shop?
Well, I think we have a lot of customers coming from Vancouver, and they're always very enthusiastic for us to open somewhere in Vancouver. So I think that would be the next step, is to open somewhere there. But I need to stop doing 14-hour days first.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's been delightful talking to the two of you. And again, this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health and Power Up for Profits. And the reason I'm putting both shows in there is because uniquely, we've got a situation where not only are my featured experts vegan, but they also run a very successful business, and they care about the environment, the animals. It's the whole package. So thank you both very much for joining us. And to the viewers, please go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell notification and the thumbs up, and you have a healthy, abundant day.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you so much.
We've really enjoyed it.
Thank you for your commitment to an ethical life through plant-based food choices. The kind of choices that are kind to your body, the environment, and most of all, animals. Be sure to leave a review and rating of the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show.